NATO membership is decided solely by alliance member countries. This was stated by President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to him, everyone knows Ukraine's choice, so we reject the demand to give up membership in the alliance. Let's listen to the quote.
They want to negotiate separately, NATO and Russia, about the future. And I think that in these separate negotiations, they will raise the issue of Ukraine's NATO membership. But in any case, that's an agreement between someone and someone else, not ours. And I think this is very important for Ukraine's future. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
And Volodymyr Zelensky addressed Ukraine's possible accession to the EU. Membership in the European Union provides a security guarantee. Let's listen.
As of today, the dates for Ukraine's accession are a matter of bilateral talks between America and Ukraine, without, so far, any European confirmation. We are saying that we want to have a specific date for joining the European Union, that this is the right security guarantee, and overall, we feel that America supports this. Membership in the European Union is also part of our security guarantees, and that's why we want to set a date for when this will happen. For example, it could be the year 2027 or 2028. There needs to be something concrete. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
The Russians will demand significant changes to the draft peace agreement. This is reported by Bloomberg, citing a source close to the Kremlin. According to this source, Moscow considers the 20-point plan agreed upon by Ukraine and the United States as the starting point for further negotiations, but supposedly it lacks provisions that are important for Russia. In particular, this refers to guarantees that NATO will not expand further east, and that Ukraine will maintain a neutral status after joining the EU. And of course, Moscow wants stricter restrictions on the Ukrainian armed forces, clarity regarding the lifting of sanctions and unfreezing of assets, as well as on territorial issues and the protection of the Russian language. Dmytro Lovis, an international political analyst, is joining us live. Dmytro, welcome.
Thank you.
In your opinion, what do you think will be the most significant and impactful point for Russia among the 20 different points that were published just the day before by Volodymyr Zelensky?
Honestly, I think that even in this form, it's completely unacceptable for Russia. Although, of course, in my opinion, they will cling to the territorial issue. Because as we remember from the summer, when they started this negotiation process with the United States, they want to secure everything they seized, right? That is, they want legal recognition, and not just recognition from, yes, they're in not just from the United States, but also legal recognition and acknowledgement by the whole world. So I think that's what they actually want. I don't believe that Russia will outright reject these 20 points. Instead, they'll stick to their usual tactics and continue to pretend to negotiate, just so that the United States doesn't impose sanctions against them. They'll pretend to show goodwill, acting as if they have good intentions. So they'll keep coming up with new and new disagreements, again and again, always finding something else to argue about. That's how it's going to look moving forward.
There's an interesting point about Ukraine's membership in the European Union. This is mentioned in the draft agreement between Ukraine and the United States. But where does the EU itself fit into this? In other words, they married me off without me.
Right. I think, you see, that's why this topic came up. Because the U.S. administration, well, there were already 28 points. All these absolutely eclectic ones, where the topic came up that the Russian money being held, Europe has it, should go to the United States. Yeah, it's kind of like a gesture of gratitude for something. And here, basically, the United States, which at this particular moment in time really isn't quite ready to openly talk about NATO membership or expansion, is nevertheless trying to show, goodwill and in this way supposedly offer support to Ukraine. And this negotiation process is still ongoing, continuing as both sides discuss and consider their positions. And it's clear why. Because they have, as they see it, a golden ticket in the form of someone like Orban, who can, in effect, stall or delay this entire process. But in my opinion, this is also just an imitation or mere simulation of a process, because without the explicit consent and agreement of the European Union, this simply can't happen. So in my view, this is all part of the whole spectacle, the ongoing performance that's happening right now, this entire negotiation process.
We literally have just 1 minute left. I'm also curious about NATO membership. Volodymyr Zelensky says that, well, this is purely a NATO decision, and it's not up to Russia to decide whether Ukraine should be in NATO or not. But how many allies can the United States actually find in this position? Besides Orban, besides Fico, and maybe the Czech prime minister as well. Because as we've seen, when it comes to voting on the reparations loan, there could be plenty of opponents.
If we're specifically talking about the process of joining NATO, then yes, the United States still very much holds the controlling stake and the decisive influence here. Let's remember the events of the year 2023, when at the Vilnius summit, it was absolutely possible to announce an official invitation to Ukraine to join the alliance. And no Orban or anyone else would have said anything in opposition, right? So all that was really needed at that moment was the necessary political will. And here, of course, that's entirely possible too, given the current circumstances and the ongoing discussions. But in my personal opinion, and I want to emphasize that this is just my perspective, it's actually good that this topic isn't even coming up or being discussed right now at this very moment. Because honestly, that would be a very clear and obvious limitation of sovereignty, right? For all the countries that are part of NATO, imposed by the Russian Federation, which supposedly can forbid anyone from joining and prevent NATO from expanding at all. In fact, this would represent a significant restriction, and it's important to recognize the implications of such a situation.
Thank you, Dmitry Lovis, international political scientist, was on our broadcast.